Hi there, this is your friend Anna, and the question that I've been getting the most from all of my friends is, what are we wearing? This age-old question isn't just about choosing an outfit, it's about choosing how we present ourselves to the world. I created the I Want Her Shoes podcast to dive deep into what it means to dress with intention, whether you're heading to a council meeting or just having a casual day out with your family. Join the conversation as we explore the power of personal style and the decisions that shape our public personas. Put on your favorite pair of shoes and step into my closet. Welcome back to I Want Her Shoes podcast, where we explore the story, style, ambition, and reinvention behind extraordinary women. I'm your host, Anna Anisin, and today's guest is someone who has spent her life immersed in creativity, resilience, and building meaningful community through art. Please welcome Mindy Solomon, founder of Mindy Solomon Gallery, one of Miami's most respected contemporary art galleries, representing emerging and mid-career artists across painting, sculpture, photography, and video. And Mindy is actually also my neighbor. We used to live right next to each other, and then I moved a block away. But this conversation is not so much about art, it's also about reinvention, loss, resilience, starting over, what it means to build a legacy rooted in passion and also purpose, which is amazing. Mindy opened her gallery in 2009, right after the financial crisis, during one of the most uncertain economic periods pretty much that we've had so far, I feel like. Since then, she has built a respected gallery, moved cities, rebuilt her life, navigated profound personal loss, and continued supporting artists and creative community throughout it all. Thank you for doing that, Mindy. And this episode is thoughtful, emotional, sophisticated, and deeply inspiring. And it's so great to have you here, Mindy.
Thank you.
Well, before we get into all the nitty-gritty, can you tell the audience kind of about yourself? Where did you grow up, and what brought you here to Miami?
So I grew up primarily on the East Coast, outside of Philadelphia. When I was 6, my dad had a Fulbright, so we moved to Ireland for a year, which was kind of
wow, that is cool.
Yeah, that was kind of an interesting journey. Kind of a magical place to be, very different. And then came back at the age of 7, and really that kind of, in a way it sort of made me a little bit of a weirdo, because I had, gone to another country and experienced a different culture and just been sort of plopped back. But I've always been a creative person. I was always drawing. I was always writing, building elaborate narratives with my Barbie dolls, very, edgy storylines.
I used to do that too.
Had a lot of fun in my room. And then when I went to college in Cleveland, and I went to Case Western and Cleveland Institute of Art. So I was in a joint program with them for my undergrad, my master's. I studied art therapy, and I also got married. So that kind of changed the positioning of my life. And then we ended up moving. My husband was a physician. We ended up moving to Clearwater, Florida in 1994, and spent about 20 years there. But during that time, I started collecting voraciously and decided that I really wanted to tell stories with art, and so I decided to open a gallery.
Well, that's a really cool story.
Thank you.
And I know that you started as an artist, an educator yourself. What made you kind of decide to move from creating art into really curating it? Because I feel like that's a very different thing.
It is, for sure. One of the things about being an artist is that it gets kind of uncomfortable and awkward if you have to talk about your work to a prospective person who wants to buy it. That's an awkward space. And I remember basically, trying to justify what minimal price I was asking. I almost felt like I just wanted to give it to them to mitigate that conversation. So it made me very aware of how important it is for artists to have advocacy and take them out of that self-selling equation. But really, and I've had this conversation with gallerists that were former artists, creatives, that curating done well is an art form. And
Right.
that is how one expresses artistry. And basically educating, going from in the educational sense, a kind of end goal type of process versus like art therapy, which is very much about, just using art as a processing tool. We're always educating in the gallery. We're always, if you're doing it right, you're telling people about the work and what they're looking at.
Yeah, no, that's really awesome. And you launched your gallery right after the 2008 financial crisis, and I know that Miami, Florida was hit pretty hard by that. What gave you the courage to start during such an uncertain time? I feel like, that's very bold.
Well, I always say it was a midlife crisis, really. I mean, I think women and men, but I can only speak from a women's perspective, go through something at some point, whether it's their, mid-30s or 40s. There's a moment, I have 4 kids, and there was a moment where, and I was always busy teaching, volunteering, doing all kinds of stuff, but I had a moment where I was like, who am I? And even though I had a lot of happiness and joy in my life, I felt like I had somehow disappeared in the equation. And this, coupled with my passion for collecting, I was like, I want to open a gallery. And at the time, the way things were looking financially in my life, at that moment, seemed like I could make it work, although I have no business background. The only background I really had was in my teaching position, I was also doing marketing and outreach. So I was sort of a self-taught marketer. So I thought, okay, I know how to be aggressive on the marketing side, but I have no clue how to budget a business, especially a business like art, which is very hard to figure out. So I just dove into it, and meanwhile, and at that time I was open in St. Pete, which was also a hotbed of the subprime lending industry.
Yes.
St. Pete, Tampa area was just one of the worst hit. So it definitely was a difficult time to do it. But I think that if you want to succeed in a business in a strange way, you need to open at the worst time possible. And that's going to help you to know what you're really made of.
Yes, that's great advice, and that is the truth. I think this is kind of one of those times, too.
Potentially.
Yes, potentially. And then you moved to Miami to essentially rebuild your life professionally and personally. And what did that chapter teach you about reinvention? Because I feel like a lot of our listeners actually are going through what you mentioned. Like, we call it reinvention. We don't call it a crisis, right? But
yeah. I think that, I had moved down at the age of 49. And, I got married at 22, so I'd never in my adult life, never in my life really lived by myself. I got married right out of college. I've never lived by myself. I was always scared to even stay in my own home alone. My kids always joked I needed to be mom sat. And I came down here and we had the building in St. Pete. We sold the building, and my husband was like, you've worked hard, and, I'm behind you. So if you want to do this, we'll figure it out. So I came down here and set up shop, and we would see each other on the weekends. And that was really, that was a big transition for me, spending time alone, sort of also processing, honestly, some of my sadness and disappointment over my feelings of kind of being let down where I was in St. Pete, even though in hindsight a lot of really wonderful things happened in that 4-year period. But just kind of going through a process, a grief process of letting go of that old life and all of those old relationships, and everything that I had known. And I think that this is Miami, I don't know if you feel this way, but I think Miami is a city of reinvention. I mean, people come here and write completely new stories about themselves all the time. So that part wasn't difficult, but trying to, and I tell people when they come, give yourself about 2 years.
Yeah.
That seems like a long time, but give yourself about 2 years to be able to walk into a room and feel comfortable, like you know everyone, and you're not sort of standing around awkwardly trying to figure out who you can talk to. Even though I still do that sometimes. I have this mantra where I say, safe haven, like who can I go to?
Well, I'm surprised that you still do that, because I feel like you know everybody. And you've spoken openly about continuing to work through some incredibly difficult personal moments, including your husband's illness. How did art and your work help you carry through all of that?
Well, no one expects that, I'm going to try not to get emotional. No one expects that your husband's going to die. Still upsetting. It's still 6+ years later. So sorry.
It's okay.
So that's that was a big shocker. He got sick. He was an incredibly healthy person. He always exercised. And, this illness came, and it was, he had lung cancer, stage 4, out of nowhere.
Never smoked,
like the most healthy person and so you have to like make the best of it. But the gallery and the art sustained me. I really leaned into that, and I didn't until it was really, really, really sick that I couldn't go into work. I kept going, and he wanted me to keep going. And then after he passed, it was sort of at a juncture, but I was only 55. So it's okay. So, I was only 55, and it was like, well, what am I going to do with my life? Because, this is sort of what I know.
I'm going to get a napkin, but continue.
Thank you. And, like 50 Cent said, go big or go home.
Exactly.
And I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to buy a building, and I'm going to continue. I'm going to create this new gallery space, and the process, the construction process, the creative process of essentially creating a cathedral for art, which seemed at many times absurd, really carried me through with a lot of joy. And I definitely felt that his spirit and support was present and, continues to sustain me.
Well, thank you so much for sharing.
Oh, you're welcome.
And I remember him.
Yeah.
He was a nice person.
Yeah.
You guys used to walk the dogs together, so... But you said that collecting became an obsession for you. What is it about living with art that emotionally impacts people?
Well, look at your closet.
This is kind of my art, right?
Yeah.
Even though it's not in that form.
My house kind of looks like this, except that it has paintings and objects in it. You know what? It becomes, when you get to a certain level of owning art, where essentially you buy art because you love it and you have no idea where it's going to go. You've crossed the threshold into storage closets, storage units, gifting, sharing,
galleries, right? Opening your own gallery and everything.
When you get to that level, it's almost like living in a pyramid. I always joke that one day the kids are going to come back to my house and I'm going to be like on a wall somewhere, like, help me. I've just been absorbed. But the collection the amalgamation of things becomes the thing. Just like when you walk into this closet and the way you have everything artfully arranged by color and style, and it's just it's an art form, it's a curation. So that becomes this wonderful space to walk in, and it can be for some people overwhelming.
Right.
That's
true.
Minimalists get very triggered.
Yeah, this is not I've had minimalists walk in here, they're like, whoa, there's a lot of color in here.
Yes, people, there. I think you either get it or you don't. But I love that. I love being surrounded by the objects. I love infilling every space. It's a design concept essentially.
Right. And do you think women approach collecting creativity and this kind of artistic expression differently than men, or do you think it's kind of just per person?
I think it's per person. What I found interesting in some of my recent new clients and client sales is I'm selling to more women.
Love that.
Individual women, and women like maybe in their 50s and 60s. I think sometimes there's a relatability process too between, the maybe the gallerist and the client, and you're going to attract people that are, understanding this, sort of rebirthing and independent stage of life. So I like the fact that women are coming in and making independent decisions and, using their resources to acquire. Probably from a sales perspective, because when you're in sales, and it's all about sales.
Yes.
It's all about sales at the end of the day.
As a business owner, you're selling.
Exactly. We're selling. And, probably when you're keying into, a good potential, it's usually a couple that sort of, drifts off and starts talking about where they're going to put it. Then you're kind of like the hyena circling the carcass a little bit, to be honest.
That sounds fun. I'm sure you have some
in a good way.
Yes, good people watching and all of that.
Yes.
And this podcast always explores identity and personal style, and I think you just mentioned this earlier, but definitely fashion and art speak kind of the same language, because I feel, I love to display my fashion, I have it in other places as well,
Oh, I'm sure.
And, so I feel like, and how has your style also evolved as you've through life and, your journey?
Honestly, probably more comfortably. I do like fashion. In fact, I just did the Independent Art Fair in New York, and they showcased, some of an incredible display of the original designs of Comme des Garçons, which are incredibly sculptural and seemingly completely impractical. I think that, I used to sketch fashions all the time. I used to make books called Mindy's World of Fashion. I think that art and fashion are inextricably tied. Fabric design, folds, shapes, angles, all about sculpture and patterning and color, and how they move through space. So we live in the design district, so
yes.
It's not hard.
I love it here.
Yeah, you can walk down the street and go in the store saying, I need a
go
white
check
blouse.
out some of these structured pieces.
Yeah, so yes, occasionally, I am investing in, really nice things, but I find that, at this stage of life, I'm not ashamed to recognize that comfort is an important part of the equation.
Right. No, I agree. I don't, even though you see a lot of these tall shoes here, those I've had for a long time. I usually buy this is probably the height that this is my favorite height now.
Yeah.
It's manageable, right? It's not too crazy.
It's not killing you.
Yes, exactly. And plus, in Miami, shoes get ruined too.
Yes.
You have to be very careful here, because the rain comes.
Yes. And surfaces can catch heels.
Exactly, you could so you have to be very careful. But I'm really excited because we've both watched Miami become a global art destination, and since you've opened your gallery here too, everything has kind of grown. And what excites you the most about the creative future of the city? Because I actually think the future of Miami is not tech. Sorry to disappoint you guys, because there was a tech bubble here during COVID, and they did a lot to get people here, but then people left.
Yeah.
Because it gets too hot here during the summer, and there's just no jobs here, to be honest, for tech, right? So I think it's really a creative city, and I think this is an art city. So I would love to hear your opinion. What's next for that? Because I feel like this is really, I mean, what else? LA would probably, or New York would be the other two places.
Yeah. I would say, I mean, I can't speak to tech. I know that there was a lot of effort being made. I do think that there are external factors that may grow industry here, which are right now the sort of business friendly way that the state is moving forward, and also obviously the tax benefits. But on the creative side, I really think the growth of this city has been the galleries, because, and I support every museum. I went to the PAM opening last night. I have a women's group that I'm on the steering committee of called the IWC at the PAM. I help form the She Collective at Oolite Arts, involved with the Bass. But I think that the galleries have really stepped up because people are taking these exhibitions seriously and introducing high quality art. There's more competition, which forces people to work harder and to craft, and to craft their own language. And that's really the important part, is building brand. So I think it's a very, very, very dynamic time for galleries and artists in Miami. There are such a myriad of gallery programs. I mean, you're going to have like a lot of galleries focusing on Latin American art, which is a big, presence in the city.
Absolutely.
But also inventive, emerging art. My program is really a cross-section of contemporary art and design. Just a lot of languages and a lot of voices introducing new ideas. And I think I have to say that I still believe that New York is the mecca of contemporary art in the United States, 100%. They just have such critical mass, and the caliber of museums and private collections and all of that is astounding. LA is good. LA has a lot. I mean, you can't argue about the museums. They're brilliant. But we have a kind of freshness that comes from this climate, from this population.
Such diversity.
Yeah, and it is very homegrown to us. That is the thing. The language is homegrown to us. And, there's been a lot of artists over the years that I have introduced to my gallery for the first time that have moved forward in major cities. Unfortunately, and I don't know who's listening, but I'm going to say this, sometimes we can't get that museum or curatorial attention at that level until one of the bigger wigs picks it up. And I feel like these institutions need to have more confidence in what we're saying now before they end up acquiring something that has 6 more zeros attached to it.
Right. That's a good point. So, and in a world moving fast and driven by trends, how do you personally define taste these days? Because that's been, there's a lot of talk about taste or quiet luxury or those kind of things, right? What is taste to you?
I think taste, number one, is self-confidence. If you have honed and refined your aesthetic, that will always be translated in everything that you gravitate to. And I say this to clients all the time. They're like, I don't know, I'm always looking at this kind of work. I said, then you should continue. There's no rule that says that if you love khaki green pants, you all of a sudden have to force yourself to buy orange pants. You can have a whole slew of khaki green. The thing is leaning into what is intuitive to you. That's number one, is self-confidence in what you are drawn to. Number two is learning and educating yourself about who are the purveyors of quality.
Right. And who are they?
Yeah, well,
that's a good question.
I'm one of them. But
Yes,
anyway,
yeah.
I mean, I think do your research, find the people that have consistent records of good business practice, that have artists that you admire, that have a reputation that you can trust. And so you take your self-confidence and your intuition and you engage that with a business that will direct you towards the things that you are intuitively drawn to. So this is sort of making a match, and this is a language that you develop. But don't be afraid to lean into the things that you embrace. I think that, and people will say, and I love the saying, good is good. So really good pieces, really good things are timeless.
Right.
I went to see the Ghent altarpiece in Belgium, and it was like mind-blowing. This thing is, hundreds of years old, and it's still fantastic. So it doesn't mean that something that is older and treasured, that you've kept for years and years and protected, still can't be pulled out of the closet or hung on the wall, because if it's good, it will stand the test of time forever.
Yeah, that's a really great answer.
And sorry, my stomach's growling.
No, we cannot hear that.
Good, thank you.
And if I'm a woman and I want to buy my first art piece,
And you are a woman, thank
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
and since I've had kids, I haven't been able to buy anything because that's where my money goes now, my renovation. But after I'm done with all that, I would love any kind of shoe-related art that you have. I would be interested in that.
Okay.
But what should you look for as an investment, really? Like if you're actually investing in that and you're putting some of your money into art.
Okay, well, I'm kind of funny about the investment narrative because I created my own investment tool, which is called the pleasure quotient.
I love that.
Yeah,
Tell me about that.
Well, it's about what is it worth to you to live amongst something that brings you joy every day. If you invest $20,000 in a painting that you live with for 40 years, and 40 years goes fast, and it's not impossible to imagine. What is that, if you take that and you divide that by 365 days over 40 years, your investment is now significantly less than a Starbucks coffee or a candy bar in the grocery line at Target. So I think that investment is also investing in yourself.
Right.
I am very, in my business, I feel uncomfortable talking about investment in art as a portfolio strategy. I think where you see these, sort of extreme numbers in the auction market is, when you're buying things that are, artists that are like no longer alive, Renaissance artists, historical works, really significant modern works of high caliber. I mean, if you want to play at that level, you have to be prepared to spend tens of millions of dollars.
Yeah, wasn't there one, I forgot, Pollock, or who was this artist that they just had hit $1 billion or something?
Well, yeah, I can't recall, but I mean, there have been recent auctions of some significant estates where very major pieces went, and they are essentially trophy pieces. I mean, we'd love to see them in museums. Maybe these people will gift them at some point, but they are significant parts of a portfolio. But most people, I mean, sometimes we can suggest to somebody, okay, this is an emerging artist. artist, this may or may not appreciate, but this is maybe a good time to buy the work before
they peak or whatever.
Before they continue to get more representation and prices double and triple. So that's more about you getting something at a good introductory time in the artist's career. There have been periods where, emerging movements really had a rapid trajectory. And then people that I don't feel were really good stewards of the work immediately took it to auction, made significant money. But then in the end, they almost destroyed the artist's career because they catapulted prices before it was the right time to do it, and then the artist was left with overinflated pricing while trying to compete with emerging work that came out in the market at a much lower price. So if you're going to buy art, the hope is that you'll be a good steward of it and you won't turn it around so quickly. I mean, of course, possession is 90% of the law, so no one can really tell someone what they can and cannot do with their stuff, even if the gallery gives you a contract that says
you have to keep it for
5 years, which, hopefully you can respect that. There are contracts out there where certain galleries will ask collectors not to sell it before a certain time, and if so, to offer it to the gallery first to buy back. But I don't think your listening audience is necessarily part of that market. And for getting back to your question, as a woman coming into a gallery that wants to buy a piece, I go back to the last question about taste and trust and knowing what you're interested in.
Yeah, like shoes, and I would like those kind of pieces.
So, right.
Or,
but I think also exposing yourself to a lot of things.
Right.
That's not to say that you can't fill your house with shoe art right at the top.
No, that is from my closet. Yeah.
Right. But I think that going into places that are known to be good, doing your research, talking to other people that have art, finding out where they get their art from, find out what their experiences are, follow, the art newspaper is a great resource for reading about contemporary art. There's a great online tool called Artsy.
Artsy, yes, I've heard about.
Artsy is really interesting because you can sort of navigate anonymously and, sort of see things. And then we get a lot of attention from Instagram.
Right, social media.
Yeah. And if you like a gallery, follow the gallery and just kind of see the things that they're showing. And that will help you to see, after a while, the kind of stories that they tell and what their own language about, and if it sort of gels with what you like.
Well, speaking of stories, Mindy, you have to share the story of these amazing Manolo Blahniks that you brought, and they're all. Can you describe what they are? It's like almost baroque,
they're sort of so. I probably have had these.
It's like royalty, like those Parisian castles.
Yes, that's exactly what I thought when I bought them. So I've had them over 20 years,
and they look brand new.
Yeah, well, I try and keep them in their little boxes and their little bags, but I went through a stage that sort of concurred with the midlife crisis where, I was doing all this running and I was very lean and fit, and I felt, believe it or not, girls, I felt sexy and good about my body. I mean, how can we actually say that, right? I was so confident in my 40s, And so I did a lot, and I had these 4 kids. That's why I acquired them. And I have gotten rid of many, many shoes, including Manolos, because they were not comfortable.
But those look really comfortable.
Well, they're okay.
Yeah.
But I like to say I couldn't part with them because look at this fabulousness.
I mean, even inside, it has the same pattern inside, which they don't do that anymore.
No.
I have not seen anything like that in the new ones. Yeah.
Right. So you have this fabulous patterning. I mean, they're just beautiful fashion. So this really goes back to the things that you taste about taste, but art.
And art, these are literally art and fashion.
Yeah, so that's why I've retained them. And I think I remember wearing them at a wedding with a gorgeous... Actually, I just finished I didn't buy them then, but I bought this suit that I wore them with. I did the Chicago Marathon, and I always joked I was a shopper with a running problem. So after the Chicago Marathon, I dragged my husband to Saks, and I bought this beautiful silk suit that was like sort of a pinkish beige, and I wore them to this really nice party with these shoes. And I felt so good about myself.
Well, that's a beautiful story.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And now we have a this or that Mindy's edition.
With
Abstract or figurative?
Oh, God.
Or both?
Both.
Art Basel or quiet gallery afternoon?
Quiet gallery afternoon.
Agreed. Vintage fashion or modern minimalism?
For me, probably modern minimalism.
But you have vintage kind of.
She's right there. I do, but I'm sort of a basic bitch.
Well, that's okay. That's okay. You're very tasteful.
Yeah. Maybe someone wouldn't agree with this.
Paris or Miami?
Paris.
We'll see, they have a great. Well, you can't compare America to Europe.
Well, I mean, it's just the most magical city. It's so incredible. I can't even walk down the street without my jaw dropping. It's incredible.
Collecting art or creating art or both?
Well, at this stage in my life, collecting. And as a gallerist, collecting.
Statement piece or layered subtly?
Gosh. Oh my God. I'm going to say statement.
I like that. Black and white photography or bold color?
Gosh, they're both so different. I can't choose. I'm just going to say both.
Dinner party or museum opening? I think I'm
dinner party.
Yeah?
I mean, museum openings are fun, but
dinner party's more intimate.
Yeah, more intimate.
Oversized blazer or silk kaftan?
Oh my God. Or both. These are good questions. I don't have too many kaftans, but I'm going to say both.
Creative chaos or structured routine?
Oh God. I like structured routines in my life, but the art world is creative chaos, so it's a combination.
Love that answer. Well, Mindy, this conversation was such a beautiful reminder that creativity isn't just about art. It's about resilience, identity, reinvention, and the courage to continue building something meaningful through every chapter of life. What you've created is more than a gallery. It's a space for storytelling, community, emotion, and most of all, legacy for you and your family and your wonderful husband.
Thanks.
And I think so many women listening will connect deeply with your honesty about starting over, evolving, and continuing forward even through grief and uncertainty. Thank you for sharing your story with us, and to everybody listening. Sometimes the most beautiful things we build come from the chapters we never expect to survive. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. What a beautiful statement.
And now I'm going to ask you to pick a pair of shoes from my closet that best represents you. I'm going to look at picture.
Oh, gosh. Well, this is tough. Very tough.
Well, there's a lot of choices at least. You know what I mean?
Gosh. You know what? I'm wearing Birkenstocks.
You're wearing Birkenstocks? Okay.
I'm going to go with these.